Hello, welcome to the Ball Knowers podcast with Jack Keating. Here today, joined by Brian Drake. I would consider a legend in the fantasy world. To introduce you a little bit better, won the FSWA Fantasy Football Article of the Year award in 2024. His podcast, The Fantasy Football Hustle, was nominated in 2022 for the FSWA Podcast of the Year award. A well-known lover of IPAs, a huge Syracuse Orange fan, and last and least, unfortunately, an Eagles fan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. All that stuff just means I'm very old. And if you're going to be a fan of Syracuse sports, you better like high alcohol beverages.
Yes,
So I'm
yeah,
glad to be here,
definitely.
brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. Today I wanted to talk about the NFL draft that happened last week. We could talk about the fantasy implications of it, obviously, since you're so big in the fantasy world. Um, and just like the different fits that we like on the different teams that these guys were taken, where they were taken, how they can fit into these teams, so on and so forth. So to not waste much more time, we can get right into it. My first guy that I want to talk about, it's a lot. It's every talking point I feel like has been touched on for the most part about him, but he's my favorite player in the draft, Travis Hunter. I think he was the best player in the draft. He not only just his two-way ability, but they're saying that he's gonna mainly play receiver, which when he was in college, I was expecting him to be a corner first and then receiver. I feel like it's a little easier to mainly play corner and then play like the goal line or the red zone and stuff rather than playing mainly receiver and then like is he gonna be able to? I mean, obviously an insane athlete, but is he gonna athletically be able to play corner, like just go in there, throw him in a corner. Like I feel like that could be tougher to just play one snap here and there of corner than one snap here or there of receiver. But regardless, an insane talent, one that we've probably never seen before. Really, you've had like Charles Woodson and things like that have that two-way ability, but never of this caliber. Clearly, a top player that could have been drafted as a top receiver, top second overall receiver, second overall corner. I wouldn't have been surprised either way. I have a few stats here written down about him from his college career. Before the catch, he's a 92nd percentile in man, 97th percentile versus zone, 97th percentile versus press. At the catch point, 95th percentile contested catch rate. He caught 63.3% of his contested catches, which is just bonkers. After the catch, he's a 94th percentile missed tackle forced per receptions, which is 27.7% of his catches, which again is an incredibly high number. I just feel like, all that to say, insane talent. I could see him dominating against really any coverage. I think he's going to be an elite player. And to specify where those stats came from, it was from Matt Harmon of Reception Perception, who, he refers to Travis Hunter as prime Odell Beckham, which obviously pretty insane praise. I wouldn't be surprised if he reaches a height like that, though. What do you feel about Travis Hunter coming into this Jaguars offense?
First of all, I like Matt Harmon. I've met him a couple of times now, and for him to give him that praise is very exciting. I'm
Hmm.
with you. I thought Hunter was going to be a corner, and I think he's better at corner than he is a
I
receiver.
agree.
But I'm sure we'll get to Sanders at some point later in this, but
Hmm.
I always thought the passes he was catching, he always had to make some miraculous catch,
Totally, 100%.
fighting
Yep.
through a defender.
Hmm.
Everyone's like, oh, Shador is so accurate. Like, is he? But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So with Hunter, there's no chance he's going to play both positions. You're just not. So
Hmm.
let's say there's 100 snaps on average in a football game. Okay, you're
Yeah.
telling me this guy's going to run 50 routes on
Hmm.
either side, and he's going to be in the meetings that start at the exact same time in the building? Like, no, he's not. So if they want to use him as a receiver, okay, then they can sprinkle him in, like you said, a little bit for some packages. I'll tell you this: if I'm another team and Travis Hunter is out there at corner lined up on whoever, I'm targeting a rookie who I know is not getting starter snaps out there and is focused on
Yeah.
another position. I
That's a
got a
good
feeling
point.
that little experiment's going to stop real quick.
Hmm.
But I'm interested in terms of fantasy, where he's going to go in these rookie drafts. I just considered he was going to be a corner. So now you look at it and you go, well, is he the number one wide receiver on the board? Okay, well, so now he's ahead of Ted McMillan, who landed in a great spot for him, by the
Yeah,
way.
I love
Uh,
T Mac
you
spot
know,
there.
it's a great spot. So, who do you like more if you were going to draft one for fantasy right now? I mean, you look at the roster and who Travis Hunter's got to fight through. He already has one of the best receivers in the league on his team in Brian Robinson Jr. But outside of that, there's not much else. So he
Yeah,
doesn't have to come in and be an alpha,
totally.
right? He can just kind of show up and run around and be maybe more of a gadgety guy that they
Hmm.
want him to be.
That was one of the points I wanted to touch on, where their receiver three is it's either going to be Brenton Strange, which like he had a fine rookie season, but like is he really their third best receiving option in an NFL team? Like not really. Gabe Davis, who to put it like frank,
Thanks.
yeah, sucks. Like is bad at football. Uh, they have some one other guy, I forget his name. But like regard
Yeah,
like
like Parker Washington,
yeah, yeah.
Diami Brown from
Yeah,
the
Diami Brown,
Commanders.
Parker Washington. It's trash. So Travis Hunter, I mean, you got Brian Robinson, Brian Thomas there, who I'm a huge fan of. Like had one of the best rookie seasons in a long time, which is a spectacular player. But it's just them two, and so I think both of these guys, you're looking at a likely chance that both these guys hit like 1,300 yards this season. I expect Travis Hunter to have a really good season. I've always been really high on him. I like unless Trevor just never takes that step up, which like everyone's for the most part is kind of hoping he does. Like I see both of these guys thriving, and yeah, there's not much room for anybody else. I mean, I guess there is room, but like unlikely that anybody else steps up big time. So it's gonna have to be these two guys really, putting the workhorse load of the offense.
So I think a lot of people, it's going to be a flag plant situation for Travis Hunter in fantasy, where you're either going to have to really like him
Hmm.
and you're going to say, I want to go get this guy. I want him on my team. He is an elite talent. The NFL is all about explosive plays,
Yeah,
and this kid is an explosive play waiting to happen. And he's never going to see the best corner on the field, thanks to Brian Thomas Jr.
totally.
So there's always going to be an opportunity for him. Or you're in the mindset of, well, they're going to be gimmicky with him. He's not going to get a full complement of snaps, and he's going to be a little underwhelming. And now you're looking at like the wide receiver 40 in
Hmm.
fantasy, and it's like, what's that really worth, for your team? Do you want to spend a high draft pick on that? So I'm very interested. I know best ball drafts are just opening up on Underdog and other platforms. I can't wait to see what the ADP is on this kid.
Yeah, I don't know what his ADP is right now. I was trying to do a little research into like these drafts and stuff. Most of them I was just seeing dynasty drafts, which obviously it's just rookies, so you can't really take too much into that.
Yeah.
But
Underdog, I think they just announced theirs, so it's just opening. If it didn't open today, it'd probably open in the next couple of days. They just
yeah,
dropped it like yesterday.
I don't know what his ADP will be, but I feel at least for myself that I'm probably going to be overdrafting him. I just think he's going to have a really really good season this year. Um,
That's the thing. Who would you rather have on your team? A guy like Travis Hunter, who is pure electricity and has a walk-in day one role as a starter,
yeah.
or some guy who's bad. Maybe he's the third receiver on his
Hmm.
team, or a backup running back who
Yeah, it's
needs someone
like
in front of him to get hurt. Draft for upside.
yeah, if we're talking redraft leagues, like I wouldn't be his stock probably is maybe around the same as like Mike Evans, let's say. Like I feel I would take him over Mike Evans. Mike Evans barely hit 1,000 yards last year. I know he missed a few games, but like he's not as good as he used to be. Now that they added like Buka, like how does that change his potential ceiling of production? He'll still hit that 1,000 yards because we saw last year they will make sure he gets those yards. But
I
like
hated that pick, by the way.
yeah, I wasn't
Ibuka.
I
Hated it.
I was a I loved McMillan last year, and to me the
Mhm.
Egbuka pick, like my gut reaction was, how messed up is Chris Godwin? I get we can just go straight into Egbuka because I have him written down here too. Like that, how messed up is Godwin after that dislocated ankle? Because like is this a sign showing that they're going to move on from him soon? Is he clearly they're seeing in his workouts that he's not like back to that level? What do you think?
I think they gave him a new contract for a
Hmm.
couple of years. People were looking to overpay for Chris Godwin, the Patriots in particular.
Yeah.
And now you bring in a guy who literally plays the exact same position,
And only
and
plays slot.
he's not. Yeah, he's going to play in the slot, so he's going to play where Chris Godwin plays. I mean, forget about McMillan. He's
Yeah,
dead to the world at this
which
point.
that
If you're holding
sucks.
on to him for redraft, don't even waste your time with him in redraft. Uh, but he's still going to be buried, I think, for at least a year or two. Even when they play
Hmm.
11 personnel, Are they going to move Godwin to the outside? Are they going to put Ibuka on the outside? Godwin, he's going to see all his targets.
Yeah, I mean they tried.
Baker, like,
They tried Godwin in the outside. What was it, 2 years ago at this point, and he did fine. Like, I mean, he's a very talented receiver, so I don't doubt that he can go out there again. But it's just like you said, like McMillan, the dream for him is kind of dead, and so it just throws off everything.
Mhm.
This offense is a little wonky. Like Bucky Irving is, he had an amazing season last year, so he's gonna eat up a lot of touches too. Like, it just I feel like this is such a loaded offense that it's kind of it's one of those that I feel like I might just shy away from them completely. Maybe, like Bucky Irving, I'll still look at, but outside of that, I'm not sure.
I know. I have mistakenly faded Mike Evans year after year after year, and all he does is, like you said, go for 1,000 yards,
Hmm.
score 10 touchdowns,
Yeah,
and at the end of the year, you look at the guy's team in your league who won the championship, and you're like, he had all these boring guys on his team. He drafted like Mike Evans,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's why, because Mike Evans, like we said, scored 10 touchdowns and had 1,000 yards. So
Hmm.
I don't like the pick. That could have been a scenario where in their draft room in Tampa Bay, he was just simply the best guy on the board. And when they picked late in the first round, he might have been the only guy with a first round grade that they had. And they
Yeah.
said, the hell with it. We can't trade back. Nobody wants to come up here at this point because, nobody was really outside of the Giants looking to come back in for a quarterback. So, like, whatever, take the highest rated guy on our board.
Yeah, I could see that because from all the reports that I was seeing, like the month or so leading up to the draft, teams were having, as few as like 10 first round grades on these guys. And so that kind of tells me, for the most part, all I really need to know that like a lot of these later first round picks were likely not even first round grades on these guys had. They just said like, I guess you will just look into the second round grades to see who, because you had to take somebody. And a lot of teams I'm sure were trying
Oh,
to trade
yeah.
back, and they, for someone to trade back, you got to trade up, and most teams weren't looking to trade up.
And you can tell what teams think of a draft when you see how, if everybody's looking to trade down, they don't believe that there is high end talent in the draft. And
Hmm.
I think that was probably the case in this draft. Is teams were looking to kind of trade down, accumulate more third, fourth, fifth round picks in this draft. And we saw it with the quarterbacks, where only three quarterbacks went fairly early. Nobody was really looking to come up and snag all these guys. And maybe it's just an indictment on the class, and there's the whole other Sanders situation. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, interesting draft, and there's not 32 first round grades for all
Yeah,
these
there
players.
there
So
rarely
when you
is.
reference that, yeah, it's so teams are just like, you know what, we're just gonna take the best player on our board and let's shoot for some upside.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. The next guy I wanted to hit on is Omarion Hampton. I really like his spot with the Chargers. The hot rumor leading up to the draft was him going to the Broncos, which I would have very much so liked that fit too. But him going to the Chargers is, I feel like, almost just as good. Obviously, it's still, you got Najee there, but Jim Harbaugh has proven that he likes to run the ball, and I don't really think Najee's that big of a worry for him. I think Hampton is just overall better. Najee didn't like produce that incredibly. I mean, he's gotten consistent 1,000 yards, but like 1,000 yards in 18 games now is a little less meaningful than it was years ago. I think Hampton's just going to step in and be their RB1 there. I might start 50-50, but like by week 6 or something, I could see it being as much as 70-30. What did you think about him? I can get into the stats and stuff later on.
I I think he's a tremendous player. There's no question about it. But
Hmm.
we oftentimes in fantasy, we get so excited about the new shiny toy in the room, and that's what Omarion Hampton is.
Yeah.
Remember, this staff went out and signed Najee Harris. They saw what he does what he did in Pittsburgh and what he
Hmm.
does, which is run for 1,000 yards, stay healthy, and not fumble. And they
Yeah,
said, we want a
that's
piece of
fair.
that. So they brought him in. So it would not shock me at all if for the most part of this season it was a 50-50 split.
Hmm.
And they used Najee this year really just kind of to train Omari and Hampton because they want to pound the rock. This is not the greatest receiving core in the world here.
For sure.
They get a guy Trey Harris who's kind of exciting, but um, yeah, they're going to run the ball. Would it shock me if both these guys had 800 to 1,000 yards this year? Wouldn't shock me at all.
I agree.
I think Najee is going to be one of the greatest values in fantasy because, like you said, everyone thinks, oh, Hampton's going to take this job and run with it. I mean, he's a veteran. He's a good running back. So he's going to be a guy in like the 10th round. So again, that same guy in your draft who wins with Mike Evans is going to go,
Yeah,
Najee Harris on the board. I'll take him. And then he's going to get 1,000 yards
that was
rushing
it was
and
kind
10
of it
touchdowns.
was kind of like Kamara last year, who he was like a seventh
Mhm.
round, eighth round guy, and I faded him a lot
Yep.
last year because there was the potential suspension, and then there was the like him getting older. I was unfortunately a fan of Condre Miller, and so
Oh,
yeah, I mean, gross. He sucks, but like so there were just he was the guy like the boring veteran guy who year 10 at this point, whatever it
yep.
is, like you know what he's going to do. And I figured this was the year he would take a step down. Maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, who knows? But yeah, I could see you saying Najee's the boring guy. Like, I mean, he's going to get a lot of touchdowns on the goal line at least. He's their guy for those short yardage
Sure.
situations. He's not the pass catcher that Hampton could be. Hampton really stepped it up this past year with the catches. I mean, he was the second leading receiver, receptions wise, for UNC, which is pretty crazy. And they've had a solid stretch here of NFL running backs that, I mean, outside of like Javante getting hurt, like they've had a solid stretch of good running back coming to the league. So I mean, you can't scout the helmet, but to get into to get into the stats for Hampton a bit, he had over 300 total touches last year, 17 total touchdowns, 6 yards per carry. Like I said, second most receptions on his team. The Chargers are going to run the ball a lot, and you saying they could each get 800, 1,000 yards, I wouldn't be too surprised. Which is a little, but it's a little strange to me because Herbert like is such a good quarterback that you would think that they want to pass more than like 20, 25 times a game. But last year they showed that they're perfectly comfortable doing that, and they were winning games doing it too. But until they get like a real number one receiver, I mean McConkey's solid for sure, but until they get someone else there, like outside of they signed Mike Williams or they have Quentin Johnston, who he was a lot better last year than his rookie year, but he's still kind of a question mark. I guess this will be a running offense.
And Hampton and Najee, they're not that different
Hmm.
of a player. They're these big, just bangers who are going to just wear the defense down, impose their will in the second half. And maybe that's what the Chargers want to do is maybe they want to play a little hide the quarterback. And I love Justin Herbert, but maybe they just want to get that lead, just grind the clock, run things out. And with these two guys, you don't have to worry about a change of pace. You don't have to worry about which guy's going to catch
Hmm.
60 balls out of the backfield because they both are good enough at the role. And that's why I think for fantasy, we're going to get over our skis on Hampton, and Najee Harris is going to be very annoying, very involved, and very underrated for fantasy in 2025.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the first month of the season you're seeing a lot of like I hate Najee Harris tweets and stuff because these guys drafted Hampton
Sure.
and yeah Najee finishes the game 12 carries, 80 yards and two touchdowns because he got like two 3 yard touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so moving on, I we could talk about the two Ohio State running backs a bit. What was your opinion on Travion Henderson to the Patriots and then Quinshon Judkins to the Browns?
So, yeah, Travion Henderson to the Patriots, it's kind of the same story where I look at Ramondre Stevenson, who they just paid about a year ago
Yeah.
and gave him some money. Now, is Ramondre special? No, but he's good. He
Hmm.
was the best player on a horrific Patriots team,
Yeah.
last season.
Terrible.
Is he going to get thrown away like with the trash? I don't think so. I mean,
Antonio Gibson will be for
Henderson,
sure.
very, very good. 5'10", 200. Oh yeah, no question about it. But now you get Travion Henderson coming in, big time explosive playmaker, somebody who can really hit the home run. So I think while everyone again is going to want to anoint Travion Henderson as like the guy, I think he's going to be more used in space. I think they're going to be somebody we want to get him the ball, maybe not 30 times a game, but let's design 15 unique opportunities, ways to
Hmm.
get him the ball. Why waste him in the middle of the field, pound it up the middle? Like we can pay Stevenson to do that.
Yeah.
And Stevenson's no zero in the pass game either. So
True. Yeah.
I think down the line, we could see Travion Henderson as the lead back there. And no team has transformed themselves more than New England Patriots. I would say right now, this is the second best team in the AFC East.
I
Right
agree.
now, I think they've jumped Miami, who is going backwards right now.
I've had Miami like
And
on
the
the
Jets are just
downtrend for
kind
a
of the
while.
Jets. They have no quarterback.
Hmm.
Yeah. So when you look at the offensive line, you look at the skill players that they've put now around the quarterback in Drake May. This is an exciting ball club.
Hmm.
So where do I want to draft Travion Henderson for fantasy? I don't know. I still wonder how many touchdowns this team can really score, but you've got a number one wide receiver out there now. You should be able to throw the football a little bit. But I just wonder again how much of this offense can Travion Henderson take from Ramondre Stevenson? Like the guy didn't die. He's still there. He's still a
Yeah.
veteran. They still paid him. So I think when snap one comes in September, he's going to be the man. It's just when fantasy playoffs rolled around, Travion Henderson's probably the guy you'd like to have on your bench
Hmm.
because he could be starting and getting you 15, 20 points in fantasy championship weeks.
And I think Henderson, he's such a good pass blocker that it kind of makes me think like there might be chances where they have both of them out on the field where Henderson like comes in and he does a lot of chip blocking for the edge rushers and then like they run out Ramondre and like he gets open because Henderson's staying behind or maybe they run the play action and Henderson blocks a bit and then pops out. So like you were saying, they're both good pass catchers, but I'd like the blocking and then I guess catching ability for Henderson to he might not get as many carries, but I think that's really going to where he's going to be able to earn his points is in the passing game. Um,
And
but
you know what else is
mm,
they could one thing they might have thought is we don't want the ball on the carpet. And we saw last year where Ramondre got benched
yeah,
because he was fumbling the ball too much. You don't have to worry about Travion Henderson. At least in college, he held onto the football and fumbling was not a problem with him. So
hmm
who knows? It's a very interesting nugget between these two running backs with Henderson and Stevenson.
yeah. And Ramondre didn't really have much of a fumbling problem before this past season, at least not prominent as much as it was. Like last year, it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere that he like that was a real he like you said he got benched in multiple games for just not being able to hold on to the ball. That they had he cost them games, probably at least two games that I can remember.
With a team like this in the fourth quarter, I got a feeling they're going to be playing a lot of tight games. They got a
Hmm.
great defense. They're really adding people all over the board in this roster. You know, who's going to be on the field in the fourth quarter? If it's Henderson, that's where the fantasy points are going to come from.
Yeah,
And you got a really good quarterback. I mean, Drake May can run, he can throw, he's going to be able to check down, and
yeah,
that's kind of the mystery piece in fantasy football is can you get running backs that catch the rock? But you have to have a quarterback who wants to check down and throw to these guys. Like if Justin Fields is your quarterback,
hmm
he's not going to check down and throw. He's going to take off and run. While
yeah.
Drake May can run a little bit, he still will throw to running backs.
So speaking of, you mentioned Justin Fields and like you mentioned the Jets earlier and their lack of quarterback situation, and then you just mentioned Justin Fields again.
Mm-hmm.
So were you surprised that they didn't draft a quarterback? I mean, it's a weaker quarterback class, no doubt, but you have Fields on a 2-year deal and you nothing this draft at all. Is that surprising to you?
Hey, yeah. I mean, this is a team. I think they just want to get back to maybe running the football, playing defense. They had to get out of the circus that was Aaron Rodgers.
Hmm.
And listen, they lost Devontae Adams, who was even at his age a phenomenal wide receiver.
Yeah,
So
down the stretch, he was
it's
great.
Garrett Wilson. He is. So now you look at this offense and you go, okay, Garrett Wilson's fantastic. Who the hell else is on this team they're going to throw the ball to? I mean, you've got
Yeah.
Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard. They drafted this kid Arian Smith I think in the fourth round. But
Hmm.
I mean, this is bad news. It's going to be Field taking off and running, and running with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. So um,
Yeah, it's
I'm shocked that they didn't bring somebody else in. But this is where they want to go. They didn't want to spend the money.
mhm.
Uh, it's just going to be Fields and Tyrod. Good luck.
It's a little reminiscent of Zach Wilson's last year with or I guess he was on the 2 years ago with the Jets, where it was like him and Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall, and then just like nothing else, and it was just messy football. Their defense like should still be solid, and they've revamped that offensive line 100%. So like that could be a solid unit, but like this
Sure.
offense is just not. It doesn't really move me too much. And I am a little surprised that there were a lot of opportunities that they could have gotten at least. I mean, I'm kind of high on Shador. Like I don't know. I just felt like a lot of teams that could have used a backup quarterback like him, or like even like a potential future piece. Like he could be a QB1 for a team in the future. Like he's not going to be a top 10 guy, but I think he could be a starter. And so like a team like the Jets where like he
Shador's going to
can.
start for the Browns this year. By like week 5, Shador Sanders is the
Oh,
starting quarterback
100. I
for
have
the
that in my notes. I was gonna bring that up later, saying like because I think I tweeted out a few weeks ago or a week ago after the draft, then when he got taken on Saturday, saying like he's clearly gonna start for them at some point. Like this is the worst quarterback room in the league by far, one of the worst in like a years. It feels like this is a horrible unit, and I mean we can get into it now. Drafting
Sure.
Dylan Gabriel in the third round is about as much malpractice you can have as a GM as like possible. That was a all-time bad pick in my opinion. I think he's like just barely an NFL player if at all. He's like a career backup, future QB coach, and like he's not better than Shador at basically anything. And so him
Mhm.
going like, I mean, those interviews like I don't know what he did, what he said, but like he must have done something so insane to fall that far. And I know everybody's hit on the Shador falling and everything so much, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But it really is just so like insane that he goes to a team that drafts two quarterbacks and two running backs. Like I know you were pretty against the Browns draft, right?
I mean, look, you traded out of the first, so they just are a walking contradiction.
Hmm.
They trade away their pick at number 2. So now they miss out on the two best players in the draft, in my opinion,
Yeah.
in Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. You don't get either of those guys.
Hmm.
Then you trade down, you go, okay, we're going to take Mason Graham. Great. No one's going to, get up in arms, took a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
It's not the sexiest pick in the world. So really, when you do that, you're saying, okay, now we've got 2 picks for next year. That's going to help us get up and get a quarterback.
Hmm.
Why are you drafting 2 quarterbacks this year if
Totally.
your plan is to go get a quarterback next year? Why
Yeah.
did you make all those trades at the top of the draft and then draft 2 more quarterbacks? It's moronic. Then you drafted a tight end in Harold Fannin, who you don't need because you have David Njoku. And
Hmm.
then you drafted a couple of running backs. Okay, Quinshon Judkins. Love it. Fantastic. Let's roll with Judkins and Jerome Ford. And then they're like, we're going to muck it up with Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean,
In
I liked
Cleveland.
Samson. I feel like him in the fourth was a really good value. I don't even feel like he's like much worse than. I felt like Judkins was a little bit overdrafted in my opinion. Like he's a good player. I just felt like top of the second was a little too high for my taste. Especially with how deep this. I mean, this running back class is incredibly deep, one of the deepest in like my lifetime. And so um, like I didn't feel like they have Ford who was pretty solid last year. I felt like you could have waited at the top of the second and taken a position that you more so needed, which is almost everything outside of like cornerback. Um, I don't know. I felt like they could have done something different. And you mentioned the trade out from two. I like the return. The Jags paid a lot, no doubt. And so that's like I've seen people saying that's why they're running him at receiver rather than corner because for this trade to pay off, he kind of needs to be a receiver. Um, but like I just don't know if he. I think Travis Hunter is. This is kind of high praise. I think he's a future Hall of Famer. Like he's such a
Okay.
special talent, and I just don't think it was. I don't think there was a trade worth trading out from taking him. I think that he's gonna
I
have
agree.
such a spectacular career.
I would have taken Abdul Carter at 2. I would have taken Abdul Carter at any pick where I didn't need a quarterback, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought he was very special, and you can't
Shout out
get
to the
elite
Giants.
pass rushers. Yeah, Giants had a great draft.
I loved it.
Giants were, yeah, whole NFC East, I think,
Mhm.
did a fantastic job.
Commanders,
But
I was
just circling
a
back
little
finally,
shaky on. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah.
finally on Sanders. Now, this can all work out well for Cleveland, and they
Hmm.
can look like geniuses if Sanders becomes your starting quarterback, which eventually he will.
Yeah.
Then you have 2 picks next year, and you're going to have Jacksonville's pick, which could be a fairly high pick.
Yeah,
So
it
now you've
definitely could
got a
be.
couple of picks, and then you don't need to take a quarterback.
Hmm.
Maybe then you take other stuff. You need offensive line. You need, who knows, you pass, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Or you can trade those picks and just keep stockpiling talent. So that's really where Cleveland has to pray, is that Sanders or Gabriel, but not likely,
Hmm.
one of those guys hits and becomes their quarterback of the future. But it was obvious this was a play from management that if they wanted Shedeur Sanders, they could have just taken him at 94 when they took Dylan Gabriel.
Totally.
Like, why did you wait, like another 50 picks later to take
Hmm.
Shedeur Sanders, which
Yeah, and
I don't know.
I
That
don't want
was
to.
it
I
was
don't
very
want to
odd.
read too much into the draft video. Like when he got drafted, and they show the Browns office, and they're like the coach and the GM are just sitting there like they're so annoyed.
Yeah.
But they try to say like, oh, like that was delayed or whatever. So like that's not an accurate video. But I think it was pretty accurate. I don't think that they really wanted him. But it seems like from everything I've seen on Twitter and Instagram, a lot of the Browns players are tweeting out, support for Shedeur, saying like, let's go, prove them wrong, like, be legendary, whatever, whatever. So, it seems like he is the locker room fan favorite for QB1.
And you got to remember, guys in the locker room are basically his age.
Hmm.
So the people who are hating on Shedeur are, the media types, the owners, that type of guy. They're the older crowd that looks at it and they're like, I don't want the social media circus. And that's why he didn't get picked there.
Hmm.
It was nobody wanted Dion. Nobody wanted all of the hoopla that comes with it. It's the same scenario that happened with Tim Tebow a few years ago. Team saw, okay, hey, here's Tim Tebow. Listen, is he great? No, but he won a playoff game. He threw a duck that got caught. They won a
Yeah,
playoff game against the Steelers.
Demarius
But
Thomas. Yep.
teams realized quickly, we don't want this whole fiasco that comes along with Tim Tebow of the
Hmm.
media circus. Every day you're asking us about the backup.
Yeah.
The fans are clamoring for him. Like, if you have a strong starting quarterback, like, say Philadelphia was rumored to want to have to take Shedeur Sanders just to develop him.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think Jalen Hurts every day wants to sit here and listen to the media ask him about Shedeur freaking Sanders?
Hmm.
And Nick Sirianni wants to listen? Like, not a chance. That's
Yeah.
why a bad organization like Cleveland can take him in, because they don't have a quarterback. They don't care. And,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
owners, they're one of the 5 worst owners in sports.
Yeah, you said week 5. You don't. I wouldn't like. I feel like it could even be like week 4 or. I think he might just win it the quarterback position like just off the rip. I mean, Kenny Pickett is their QB1 right now. I guess it could be Flacco, and like
It'll
that's
be Flacco. They
yeah
paid Flacco enough.
yeah like it'll probably be Flacco, but he wasn't good with the Colts last year. And he's just like I mean he's really old. He's gotten worse every year. It's just like I think they should just I mean if they want to go with Flacco, sure, but that's the type of move if you're trying to win games and Flacco's not even going to win you games, and this roster's not good enough to win games. So I think they should just like have the competition between Kenny Pickett, which is disgusting, and Gabriel and Shedeur, and have Flacco there to mentor them. Probably, I wouldn't even be surprised if Gabriel doesn't. Like, I guess he's a third round pick, so he's probably going to have to make the roster. But talent wise,
That's the
like
sticking
he's
point.
borderline not like he's probably worse than Pickett, and I would say he's definitely worse than Shedeur. And I think you have to have
Yeah.
Flacco on this team for sure. So like you're probably not going to carry 4 quarterbacks. I think Gabriel might just not make the
Nope.
team.
That would be the ultimate kick in the balls, is if you're the Browns, you just signed to, I mean, it's low end money, but you signed Joe Flacco.
Hmm.
He's going to be there. He's going to mentor these kids. Then you're telling me you traded an asset, not a great one, but you traded an asset to get
Hmm.
your hands on Kenny Pickett, former first round pick, by the way, Super Bowl
Yeah.
champion. Rub that in. And then you spent a top 100 pick on Dylan Gabriel. Like,
Yeah. Jeez.
one of those guys. So whoever doesn't pan out of Flacco and Pickett is going to get cut or traded.
Okay.
To somebody who needs a quarterback at
Yeah.
that point. Maybe Pittsburgh needs a third or something like that. But and they can
Kenny
trade
Pick
Flacco
Kenny
there. I don't
Pickett
know.
back to
But yeah,
Pittsburgh. That would be
could you imagine?
that would be pretty
But
crazy.
that's the tough part with Sanders. What do you do now? You've got 4 guys
Hmm.
and you've invested something in all of them except Sanders.
Yeah, like normally you would say 5th round quarterback, he's the guy, he's the odd man out. But like I really feel like he's the best. Like I don't even think Sanders is that good. I feel like he's fine.
He's not.
Like he's okay. He's realistically a career backup, but just this specific situation is special where everybody's trash. And so he might just like be the best piece of trash. Like that just might be what it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at this quarterback room. My goodness here.
Yeah, it's
And oh, by the way, they still have Deshaun Watson on the roster, but
yeah,
he'll never play another down in the NFL again.
that's another fantastic
This
mentor for Shadur. Yeah, it's a great spot he's going to.
exactly terrible, but
Yeah,
that'll
it's
be
tough.
so interesting to see what they do. The odd man out there is Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett's going to get
I think
cut,
so. Yeah.
or they already turned down his fifth-year option.
Hmm.
He'll get cut or he'll get traded in training.
Yeah, it's more likely than Gabriel, even though he's probably, I don't know their ages I don't know Pickett's age off the top of my head, but I would assume he's younger than Gabriel. Or if he's not younger, it's like close. So, because Gabriel's 25, right? Or is he 20? He's 24. Pickett's probably 25 at this point because he's been in the league 3 years.
Pickett's Pickett's 20. We got him listed here on our lads at 26.
Okay.
June of '98. He
Yeah,
was born.
so I guess you go with Gabriel because of the higher potential, I suppose. I wouldn't even. It's just terrible. Like,
It's just because you invested a third
yeah,
round pick in him.
yeah, it's really what it is. Like, there is no right or wrong answer because I feel like they're all just like the same answer. It's just like whoever you cut, it's not really going to change much. But we can move on from
Yeah,
Shadur. I feel
you
like,
cut Penn.
mhm.
Please, God,
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
to
yeah.
listen to Mel Kiper cry about him for three
I,
days.
I I didn't watch the ESPN. Like I stopped watching after the first pick for ESPN because I just like for that reason. Mel Kiper's not my taste. I'll leave it at that. Um, so we talked about Colston Loveland a bit. You mentioned him earlier. How do you? I mean, that was a surprising pick for me for sure. I had Tyler Warren going as the tight end one. I feel like most people did. And so Loveland going to the
Yep.
Bears at 10. How do you think that and then they also got Luther Burden, who I love in the second round. I feel like everybody had him as their like draft sleeper and everything. How do you think that those additions will
Yeah.
affect this offense for fantasy, especially specifically DJ Moore?
I mean, the Bears could be a Super Bowl contender if they had a quarterback. But
Hey, we'll
you
see.
look at this
We'll see.
team: DJ Moore, Roma Dune, Luther Burden. You put him in the slot; he'll take over for Keenan Allen. Did most of his work in the slot at
Hmm.
Missouri. Dynamic playmaker. That's really all he kind of is a guy. Uh, you got to get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage, you see what he can do. Maybe then you throw some bombs to him, but
Yeah.
he needs to develop as well. So we'll see, and they've got a couple of slot guys that he can get mentored from, a guy like Olamide Zacchaeus on the team. But Colston Loveland, you just paid Cole Kmet 2 years ago.
Hmm.
I think you gave him $40 million.
Yes.
Cole Kmet's not bad at all. And Colston Loveland now is a guy. How much blocking is he going to do? Is he just an outside tight end, somebody
Yeah.
who's going to run around the middle of the field? Maybe. Cole Kmet's not going anywhere. So to me, this reeks of Buffalo a year ago when we were all in love with Dalton Kincaid, spent a first round pick on him, and then, oh, wait, we're still going to use Dawson Knox all the time.
Hmm.
And he's going to, Kincaid's going to have no fantasy value. There isn't a tight end on the planet I would spend the 10th overall pick in the NFL draft on. To me, that it's ridiculous. The Bears either should have traded down or gone somewhere else and got
Yeah.
a tight end later because they didn't need one. But if you want to get him in dynasty for fantasy, I'm all for it. This is an offense going places. You've got a great play caller, head coach now.
Hmm.
Um, it's
And
just a matter of, is he going to totally usurp Cole Kmet? I don't think so. Not this year.
yeah, at least not this year for sure. And you said like this offense is going places. This is an offense basically locked in place for the next 3 years at least. Where you just got a new coach, you got a new QB last year. I mean Swift is like whatever, but they just a relatively young receiver core, the new tight ends. Like it's they all of these pieces they revamped the O line over the last few years. So like besides signing a few vets. Like all these pieces are here for the long haul, and so if Loveland, I would have, like you said, I'm assuming this is not his year this year, where he might finish 500 receiving yards at the most and like a few touchdowns. It's probably going to be Cole Kmet mainly still, um, but maybe the year after that, or worst case scenario, his third year is where I could really see him stepping up in this offense and being their tight end one. Because Komet's fine, but I don't really see him getting much better than he was last year. And
Mhm.
I could see Loveland being better than Komet's ceiling.
But when you've got a quarterback back there in Caleb Williams who doesn't work well with pressure, he gets happy feet. You've got to protect him. You're probably going to be in 11 personnel most of the time. You're going to have three receivers out there with Mora, Dunze, and Burden.
Hmm.
You know, it would be nice to have the tight end on the field to block, to be a kind of that extra tackle out there to help him along. And I don't think that Colson Loveland's that guy.
Not at all.
He's out there to go catch passes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll see.
and
But
Komet's a
I got
fine blocker, but
confidence
he's
in the
not
coach.
like you don't see Komet as a blocker. Like that's not why he's on the team. That's not why they signed him to that extension. Yeah, so it felt like kind of like just a riches type of pick where it's just like you just took it just because it's like another shiny object for the offense. It was not their biggest hole on the team. I felt like they could have gone defensive line, but I guess we'll see down the line. I could see it paying off within a few years from now.
I would have
Um,
taken almost any of the next 10 guys drafted over Colson Loveland if I was the Bears.
I would have taken Tyler
Michael
Warren over
Williams,
him.
edge out of
Like if they wanted tight end
yeah,
that
Tyler
bad,
Warren goes
Tyler
there.
Warren like that's why I was so surprised because I never even I don't think I in any of my mocks I had the Bears even taking a tight end, not until like maybe later on. It's just because like Warren, if you were to take a tight end, he's the better blocker. He's probably the better I just feel like he's a better overall player. But minimum wise blocking, if that's what you were looking for, like he's the better blocker between him and Loveland, and like I don't know, it was a bit of a strange pick. I don't think that they needed a tight end, at least not this year. Um,
I agree.
yeah. All right, moving on. I wanted to shout out. I needed to mention the Giants with at least one pick, and we went mostly defense. We got Jackson Dart, which I don't even want to get into. That just makes me sad. But
Don't like
he,
the Jackson Dart pick.
I didn't like I mean, the trade up was okay. Only giving up 2/3 was like I was okay with that. No future second, no future first. I'll live with it for sure. But like I just I don't think he's that good. Sitting a whole year which I pray he's sitting a whole year. If they throw him in, like fire everybody. But like if he sits for a whole year, we'll see because a lot of development can happen in that whole year behind Russ and Dable. I don't like Jameis personally, but like learning from Jameis too. Like he's the QB3 for sure, so he should not get minutes this year. But I don't know. I just don't think he's that good. I feel like everyone's gonna the play that everyone looked at was the Duke throw. That was such like a one time specific throw that happened. I don't think that that's something that he can do in the NFL. I don't think he's got the best arm. I feel like he's just overall kind of like average at everything. Like he's a solid runner. He's a good athlete, and I know that's what Dable likes. That's what he developed with Josh Allen. That's what kind of Daniel Jones was, but like, and they tried to use that aspect of him, but he's Daniel Jones. He's trash, so like they could never really tap into much for him. Um, yeah, jeez, and him on the Colts now. Like I don't even want to get into that. If he takes Anthony Richardson's job, I'm gonna be heartbroken. But yeah, I don't know. I will see Dart in a year or two and like see how he is. But I wasn't a fan. If they were to go quarterback, would have liked Milrow. Just like I think he's got the higher ceiling and he's just the better athlete with like a bigger arm. Milrow has his own problems for sure. But I don't know. I didn't feel like this was the draft for quarterback, and I didn't like whatever. I could talk about
Yeah,
Dart for a while.
I thought Dart played a lot of hero ball whenever I watched him play in the SEC
Hmm.
at Ole Miss. Like he just reminds me of like I don't know why, but like he's like Johnny football hero, gym class hero, like the stereotypical like movie quarterback
Hmm.
you see,
Yeah.
like Varsity Blues style, running around trying to be Superman and all that.
Hmm.
But um, the interesting thing about this pick is does it signify that the GM and the coach are safe for next year? Because again, you traded some assets, but you spent a first round pick on a quarterback.
Yep.
If he doesn't play, and you bring in a new staff
Hmm.
next year,
Totally.
does the new staff necessarily want to inherit Jackson Dart? Maybe, maybe not. But again, you didn't spend a ton to go get him. So it's not the end of the world if you want to move on from him. Here's what I would do if I was the Giants. I'm moving on from Jameis Winston like tomorrow. I'm calling Pittsburgh and I'm like, hey, before you spend all this money on Aaron Rodgers, like
Yeah,
any
give us
interest
a
in famous
fifth
Jameis? Like,
rounder or something. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like Jameis has a cheap 2-year contract. If somebody gets hurt, one of these quarterbacks, like someone's going to be calling the Giants for Jameis Winston, no question about it.
I agree. Um, and like you mentioned the like, do they have that extra like maybe they're not as in a hot seat as people think. I feel like they are. Like I really
They
think
should
that
be.
yeah, I wanted them fired this year, not because they're bad, but because of the exact situation we're in right now that I knew was inevitable. They were gonna draft a quarterback, and then we were gonna be in the same boat that we were with
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones, where I mean with Jones, like, it's a little different because like Dart's gonna sit for a while, but with Jones, you draft him, then the regime gets fired, you bring in a new regime, and then they just like you have no choice but to play him. And so, I mean, they extended him; they shouldn't have done that. But like with Dart, if they get fired after this season, a new regime comes in. Next quarterback class is likely not that good. Again, it's going to be better than this year, but it's still not amazing unless Arch comes out. But I don't think he will. Um, like it's they're gonna either have to just keep with Dart when they probably don't want him, and like that that wasn't their QB that they would have taken, and now they're in a year like, are you really gonna just like draft a new QB when Dart hasn't even played next year? It's a whole situation that just it's a little annoying, but I guess they're hoping. I mean, the Giants
Yeah,
like sort of have a ceiling of the wild card this year if the defense is as good as it
I
hopefully
agree.
could be, and so like if that if they reach 9 wins, 10 wins, like they're gonna stay. But if they if Russ is as was shown in Pittsburgh, where like he is okay for a few games and then he starts declining every game, like we finish with 6 wins and the eighth overall pick, they're gonna get fired. And it just I don't like the situation that they kind of pigeonholed us into be.
This defense is so sneaky good.
I'm so excited.
And like the Giants are gonna like win games like 10-9 this
Mhm.
year. And here's the question. What if Russell Wilson leads you to the playoffs, right?
Mhm.
And you got this good young defense, you got pass rush out the wazoo, and Russell, God forbid they win a playoff game,
Yeah.
right? Wild card round, they beat a
Yeah,
Panthers in the first
same
round. Who
thing as
knows?
the
Some
Daniel Jones
crazy.
situation. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And then you're like, oh my God, what do we do? Do we have to keep Russ for another year?
Hmm.
And then Russ is going to want money, and you're like, oh, but we're sitting on Jackson Dart for the second year. Oh, what a
I
mess.
I feel like
But
the only way that scenario plays out is if Russ plays like out of his mind, where he's just super good. Because if he's like an average quarterback and we get to the playoffs mainly on the defense, I think that they'll just be like, "Thanks for the playoff run, Russ, but like you can go find your new team, and we'll stick with Dart." Like Russ would have to really tap into
it,
like Seattle Rust for him to get another contract with us. I think.
does he have to get that crazy? When you look at this team and you look at can they run the ball a little bit? This offensive line is the major question mark.
Hmm.
If Tracy
I'm a
and
big Tracy
Scadaboo
guy. I'm a
can,
big Tracy guy.
I like Tracy a lot. They added Scadaboo, who's going to take
Hmm.
no question some carries off of him.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe he just totally usurps the Devin Singletary role, but this defense, man, I don't know. They could be pretty good, but they're still probably the fourth best team in the NFC East.
Eh,
So, can they
I
make
don't
that big a
know.
jump?
I think they could pass the
You think they're better than
Cowboys.
the Cowboys?
I mean, like obviously the quarterback situation, the Cowboys win by a mile, but like the Cowboys running back room is still not good. Their receiving room, I they didn't draft a receiver. Like
Okay.
that made no sense to me. They're going to be in the same situation last year where like I mean CD had a great year, but like if I'm going against the Cowboys, I'm just going to double or triple him every single play, and anybody who like it, because they might sign like Keenan Allen or something. There's talk about Amari Cooper. Like they're gonna have to get one of those guys because they cannot go back out there with
Sure.
this, Jalen Tolbert and whoever else is playing minutes for them.
Cavante Turpin, their kick
Yeah,
returner,
exactly. Yeah,
out there.
you're playing punt returners and kick returners at receiver. Like you can't do that. Yeah.
And my guy Turd Ferguson. That they might go heavy 12 personnel. They might play two tight end all the time
Hmm.
because they just don't have the receivers otherwise.
Yeah, that is interesting. That is a good point. Um, but I wanted to, I guess, I mean, we don't have to hit on Scatabo too much, but that was originally when I was going to bring up the Giants. Is Scatabo is who I wanted to mention. What was your opinion on that pick? Because I wasn't like during the college season, I felt like he was getting way too overhyped. But like in the fourth round,
Great white hype.
yeah.
So
But in the fourth round, I didn't hate it too much. I feel like he's a good second option for Tracy. He can take some goal line
mhm.
carries, some short 3rd and 1 situations away, and he's a decent receiver as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Scatabo and you say he's going to be the 1B because Devin Singletary is stinks, and who knows if he
Yeah,
even makes the roster. We'll see.
hopefully not.
But I mean, who else is in that room? Eric Gray, that's not on the
Trash.
roster for a few years. They needed an elevation
Hmm.
a backup because, God forbid, Tyrone Tracy goes down, and he's only a fifth round pick himself, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like he was some stud that they spent a lot of capital to get. You got to have somebody back there. In this day and age in the NFL, it's shown time and time again you need multiple capable ball carriers. So I don't have a problem with it at all. For fantasy, I think it muddies it up a ton.
Yeah. He's going to steal a
I
lot of
don't know
touchdowns.
who gets the goal line work, right? And
The goal line work,
Tracy wasn't that great around the goal line anyways.
yeah, I think the
So
goal line work goes to Scatabo for sure. Tracy's going to be their guy down, like they used for a second down to get to the end to the red zone, which who even knows how many trips we see there? They had like I forget what the number was. It was like 4 games in a row they didn't score a touchdown or something last year. Like it was they sucked last year. Honestly, it's just to put it simply. Their offense was terrible, and hopefully with Russ and better O line, potentially a healthy Andrew Thomas, they could be better. Still Malik Neighbors is going to be awesome. Uh, but I don't want to talk about the Giants anymore because they upset me, and I'm trying not to get my expectations too high because every year they disappoint. But like this defense, it should be good. Like Darius Alexander, I loved the pick. Um, Abdul Carter, obviously, I think he's going to be awesome. Like Kayvon Thibodeau being our
yeah,
third edge rusher is super cool. Like I think that's one of the best third edges in the league, if not the best. Maybe like probably the Eagles have us beat because you guys just have great players at every position. But like it's this defense should be solid, and they signed a lot of free agents. Javon Holland and um, Nunez Roches was there. Shoot, Paulson Adebo. Like they got some good pieces for sure. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, all right, moving on from the Giants. Uh, Jalen Royals, I was a big fan of. I got put onto him by one of my friends who goes to Utah State. He just kept telling me like in the very beginning of this, like I think it was like before the season had even started, like watch out for this dude. He's good. He's good. And then he really put his name on the scene. I felt like this year, a real speedster. He ran a 4.42, but it felt like his in-game speed was faster than that. Um, he's never got brought down by the first guy. It felt like he's a little twitchy. And in this Chiefs receiving core, it's like not awesome. They lost D Hop in the offseason. They should get Rashee Rice back, but we'll see how he comes back from that knee injury. Like they don't have that set number one deep threat guy that I feel like Royals could. I mean, he's a fifth rounder, so like we'll see how much he plays. But I feel like there's a potential for him to be able to step into that role and play a deep role for them, a deep threat role rather.
Yeah, I worry about guys that come into these Kansas City offenses because Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice. I mean, there's your three. You still got Kelsey kicking around there.
Hmm.
Can he beat out Sky Moore? I'm sure he can. Juju's still there. He'll make the team more than likely. So, I mean, you're looking at best, he's the fifth option on this team. So I have literally zero interest. I just if he
Okay.
hits off the waiver wire and you scoop him up, go nuts. But even in a dynasty format, I mean, unless he can climb into that Hollywood Brown role a year from now, I mean, Worthy and Rice aren't really going anywhere.
Yeah,
So,
I guess
um,
yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think too much into Hollywood, but I probably should have because he's Hollywood's better right now, but I don't know how long he's a chief for. And I feel like
right, probably just this year.
Yeah, and I could see him second year if he's still if he had a solid rookie season and still is on the team. I could see him stepping into that role. That's fair. What other like late round guys did you have? Because I have a few other guys that I wrote down, but which were some of your favorite guys?
Oh, let's see. Let me pull up some of my favorite rookie picks here. I mean, some of the ones you got to talk about the running back position. R.J. Harvey going to Denver.
Hmm.
He's going to step into a team there in the Sean Payton offense. They're dying for someone to be their number one running back.
Yeah.
Javante's gone, so it's R.J. Harvey can walk in day one
Hmm.
and be the starting running back for the Denver Broncos. This is an ascending team. You've got pretty good weapons. You got quarterback play now. The defense is good enough. Love R.J. Harvey. Think he's going to be a guy, especially in rookie drafts. People are going to plant a flag on. He's going to be in the probably first, second round of most of your picks, or your dynasty rookie drafts.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Johnson, who went to the Steelers. We talked about Najee Harris leaving and going across the country to the Chargers. Well, Caleb Johnson comes in. He's going to fill that exact role. I saw people were tweeting out like, "Oh, the Steelers think that Jalen Warren can be their bell cow back." No, they
No,
don't.
he's too
Not
small.
at all. Not even close. Like he can't fill that role. So I love Caleb Johnson
Yeah,
fighting
he
this.
he
Went
was
to Iowa, had a ton of carries.
Caleb Johnson. It might have been like a top five favorite pick of mine. I have wrote like a whole paragraph for him in my
Yeah,
notes here. Just because like I think that
nice.
he's gonna fill that Najee role super well. Like I think I never even was that big of a fan of Najee. I felt like Warren was better, and it was kind of just waiting for Warren to get that like step up over him. But I think Caleb Johnson really muddies that a bit, where it's just gonna kind of go back to how it was. He's a real bell cow, but he's like I think he's just overall better than Najee was. Najee was a bit more of like you just give him the ball and he's just gonna like run forward, smash into the O line a bit, and like fall forward and he'll get you like 4 yards. Whereas Caleb Johnson's like a lot more patient. He can hold back behind the O line a lot of times, and he finds the holes to get to that second level. Like I think he's it's a very weird comparison, but I was thinking about it like a week ago. It's almost like a like Najee Le'Veon like mix, where if you like added that like the skill and patience of Le'Veon, maybe not to that extent because Le'Veon was
Sure.
like so amazing at that, where he was well known for like fully stopping and not even moving in the backfield to like wait for the defense to move around a bit.
I've seen Caleb Johnson do that on film. Sure.
Yeah, so like I feel like that I really like Caleb Johnson. I was I was gonna like him probably wherever he went, but this fit right here is really good because he can be you know uh, um he could be the RB1. Although Warren was a really exciting last year, I think they just offer different things. He's gonna get a lot of the goal line touches and the short stuff, and I think he could scoop up a lot of touchdowns if they are able to get into the red zone much. That to me is a bigger problem than Jalen Warren is to me.
The problem that people have with a guy like Caleb Johnson is he's boring.
Hmm.
His landing spot is boring. The Steelers are boring. He went to Iowa. That's boring. This guy was a first team All American,
Yeah.
right? Like he can play the game. He's got great vision. Our guy Brett Whitefield at Fantasy Points, he just was raving about him. Said he could comp him to James Conner.
Hmm.
So Steeler fans, listen
It's a
to
good
this. James
comparison.
Conner was great for you guys, and he's still kicking ass over in Arizona. So that's a guy for fantasy. Like I want to get in rookie drafts, and then when your redraft home league with your buddies come up in the summertime, get Caleb Williams or Caleb Johnson, excuse me, on your team. Like this guy is going to be a fantasy home run every single week. Forget Warren. Warren's dead. I have no interest in him. Caleb
Wow.
Johnson's a guy I have no interest in these
Okay.
kind of satellite backs like that. I don't want anything. I want guys who can be bell cows, and Caleb Johnson can be a bell
Yeah,
cow.
and you use a good term, the satellite backs. I feel like a lot of times they're very replaceable year to year, where these
Yeah,
smaller, good receiving backs, like you can find so many of those. There's so many veterans that you can sign, or there's a handful of them in every draft. It's kind of similar to the RJ Hampton one, where the Broncos have Jaleel McLaughlin, and like that's not like that's their RB1 right now. Like that's not really worrisome to me. He's kind of that satellite like good pass catching back, but that's not going to stop you from the actual running plays. And I think that that's where Theo Johnson's really gonna. I mean, sorry, Caleb Johnson's really gonna thrive on the Steelers offense.
What does Arthur Smith want to do? They want to run the football.
Yeah,
They don't have any receivers in Pittsburgh.
mhm.
They're going to run the ball.
He's
And
proven that
you
on
talk
three teams
about
now.
yes, you look at you talk about satellite backs. They also signed Kenny Gainwell in free agency from the
Hmm.
Eagles, who can do exactly what Jalen Warren can do. So
Yeah,
I think
that should be
Caleb
more
Johnson.
worrisome for Warren than maybe Caleb Johnson is.
Yes. Right. So I think Johnson by the end of the year, maybe it doesn't happen week 1, week 2, but again, you're not going to spend that early pick on him in fantasy anyways.
Yeah.
You get him, and then sooner or later, you're going to see the touches start adding up, and he's
Hmm.
going to take over this backfield. So I'm really excited about Caleb Johnson.
All right. I feel like for the most part we have pretty similar likes and dislikes. Uh, I do want to. I mean, this is a seventh rounder, but I feel like this is a guy who actually could have some real impact potentially. Kyle Monangai to the Bears.
Oh,
I'm from
yes, we're
Jersey.
digging deep.
Yeah, I'm from Jersey, so like I'm a Rutgers fan, so maybe I'm a bit biased here, but um, I think that this Bears running back room does not impress me at all. I've never been a fan of DeAndre Swift. I know they paid him, so it's not like he's gonna become the RB2 for Kyle here, but like I feel like this running back room is very penetrable in the sense that he's able to move up the rankings pretty quickly, like in the training camp and everything. Um, you mentioned a few times like these guys might not be your starting RB1, RB2 in week 1 or week 2, but by week 10, week 11, especially in a dynasty league, like these are guys that have real potential for the future. I feel like a lot of these players in this draft are maybe not year one guys, but are down the line like good solid starters, and that's kind of what I feel here for
Yeah.
Kyle Mon guy. He's like I said, weaker
Good.
running
I'm
back
going to
room.
take your word for it.
Yep. Yeah, go on.
I got nothing on this kid, so
Okay.
I'm going to take your word for it.
He was a workhorse at Rutgers. Like he was their by far their best player on offense, and like the Rutgers team overperformed last season on offense, and a lot of it was attributed to him. He was elite. I was surprised that I was hoping
Uh,
he would go a little higher than the seventh round. But I think he went
that's a
to
guy.
a good team with the Bears.
That's a guy who, in the last round of your rookie dynasty picks, you throw on there. You know, if
Hmm.
it's a 4 or 5 round draft, because no one's going to take him. They're going, oh, he's buried on the depth chart there, blah blah blah. But again, it wouldn't be crazy if he goes and uh, jumps past DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. And remember, Ben Johnson drafted this guy, so Ben Johnson must see something in him.
Yeah, and
So we'll
it's
see what happens.
like
Good call out.
I learned. I mean, I've been playing fantasy since like 2010. I was like 6 years old, and like it's yeah,
I was
it's
30.
wow. But like I learned from really early on that when a new coach comes in, so often the guys that are on the team, like a Roshan Johnson, Ben Johnson might just see him as like just you're like you might not even make the team, or if you do, you're just like not gonna play much at all. And that first
Yeah.
draft is a real sign of them getting in their new guys and like drafting a running back in the seventh round. Although it's a seventh rounder, historically a lot of times they don't make the team. Like this is a situation where he might see Roshan as whatever, or he might not even really like DeAndre Swift that much. And so, like, this is a guy that could, if like you said, he drafted him. He clearly liked him enough to take him with his last pick. He might make the team and actually get some real starting minutes for them. Maybe not starter, but like,
Yeah, no,
some real snaps.
I'm writing his name down here. I got a couple of rookie drafts starting next week. If this
Jeez,
kid's hanging around late, might use that last pick on.
I did a rookie draft like I think it was 2 days ago. It was a little too early for me. I wasn't really prepared for it, but that was my first one. It felt a little like I've never drafted in April. Is that a thing you normally do, or I guess for you, you're saying early May?
That's early. That is early, brother.
Yeah,
April.
yeah. My drafts usually start like June, July is more so my taste. That's what I get into more. Um,
Oh yeah, that's the meat and potatoes of the season. We see it with our podcast numbers and clicks to the site. Where
mhm.
right now you get the little dynasty groundswell. People looking for dynasty rankings,
Yeah.
and then that kind of fades away. And then right then June, July, August, it's just
Hmm.
a monsoon. Sort of like the weather we had here in upstate New York today. Just comes in like a hurricane.
Yeah, it was 70 degrees this morning, and now it's like hurricaning. All right, the last few
340.
guys I got here. Kyle Williams, he went to the Patriots. You mentioned they have their new
Oh,
receiver one.
love him.
Yeah, I'm assuming you were referring to
Love
Kyle
him.
Williams there. Yeah, I thought that was a great pick.
Yes.
I thought honestly, I thought the Patriots, like, you could make a pretty easy argument that they had the best draft in the entire NFL. I thought they absolutely killed it. And Kyle Williams was just one of the pieces in that draft where, they got a real starting tackle and a real starting center in the early rounds, and then getting a like your probable receiver one with like good size, a very solid route runner with great hands. He's got crazy elite speed. Like, he's probably the receiver one this year, and if not this year, next year. I like this pick a lot.
Yeah, they still have Stephon Diggs, who we'll see is coming off an injury.
I'm not
Bob
moved by him
Douglas, just
much.
a diminutive slot guy.
Yeah.
Mac Hollins, who's been a great special teamer.
Hmm.
I know he did it over the last few years, but Kyle Williams out of Washington State was, making NFL plays every Saturday in the Pac-2. For the zero people who watched Washington State football, this kid was phenomenal. I watched him beat up Syracuse in a bowl game, but he's
Jeez.
electric. He can run every route. He's got the size, the speed. This is a home run pick for a team that struggles to pick wide receivers.
Hmm.
So I think he instantly ascends to their wide receiver two this season.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a chance he's a receiver one. You said, like, Diggs is that shorter intermediate stuff, and especially after I think it was an ACL tear he had last year, right? Um,
Yeah, those are tough to come back from. I'm
yeah, and
not putting all my chips on the
yeah,
Stephon Diggs
he's
bandwagon. No way.
32 around there at this point. Like, this, I think his ability on the field is probably going to even take a hit more now this year, and like if that's the case, he might just mainly do that like 10-yard, in routes and smaller slants, smaller posts, stuff like that. Like, he's gonna just do that intermediate stuff where Kyle Williams could really stretch the field, and Drake May 100% has the arm to stretch the field. He just had nobody to stretch the field to last year, and that O-line was so bad that
Yeah.
they couldn't stretch the field. Now the O-line's a little like they have some more pieces. We'll see how those rookies do. Um, He's a real field stretcher. I'm excited by Kyle Williams. I'm a huge Drake May fan. Like, I thought the pick, I liked him coming into the draft, but he really wowed me last year. He showed so much in the small time that he played. And I don't, I think that this could be a real game changer for that offense.
I'm going to be drafting him all over the place
Totally.
because, again, a guy who played at a school that nobody cared about.
Hmm.
So people like, yeah, when it's fun when you play at Michigan and Penn State and all these people get to watch you. And Ohio State has 50 guys drafted this year.
Yeah.
Nobody watched Washington where they can play. So
Hmm.
same thing. Ricky White III out of UNLV, he went real late in the process. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver.
Yeah, they just overall had a really solid draft, and I think that the Patriots, like the I don't know. I like this draft for them. I think that you said Kyle Williams, are drafting him all over the place. But I think he's like a guy that you could draft in redraft leagues too. Like, obviously not top 5 rounds or anything crazy, but he's a guy that you could stash in your bench and maybe wait a week or two and see how he does. Not
Sure.
not 5th round or something, but you stash him, maybe wait a week or two, see how he does, and then you start playing him. He's starter day one. It's You don't find that many rookies, especially later, like further down. He wasn't a 1st round pick, like 2nd round pick. He fell to the perfect spot. Really, any receiver who went to the Patriots was going to be in the perfect spot. It's just like his skill set mixed with the of his skill set in that offense. It is exciting.
No question about it. He can beat press. He's got great separation. Ran a 4.4, 5'10", 190.
Hmm.
This guy just accolade after accolade uh, when he was playing, at Washington State. So I'm in on him. I like it. I like what you said. I think he's gonna be one of those waiver wire wonders who all of a sudden, like week 6, week 7, you're like, oh, it's kind of fluky. This guy caught 6 balls for 70 yards, and the next week, he caught 7 for 100 and a touchdown. And it's like, all right, this guy needs to be on rosters, and
Yeah.
this isn't a fluke. He's actually like a part of their passing game.
Hmm. Um, I moving on. I also liked the Cowboys got Jaden Blue in the 5th round. I thought that was an interesting pick. They have a relatively weak running back room. Javante, I always liked Javante, but last year he
Mm-hmm.
was not very good. He clearly was not healthy from, or maybe he was healthy but not 100% back from that knee. Um, they had Rico Dowdle, who I guess is like move me that much, and so Jaden Blue is a burner, ran a 4.38, crazy breakaway speed. My only real worry for him is he fumbled a bit in college, but that's fixable. Like NFL teams are like, or they're able to do whatever it is. You know, they can make him carry a football around like he's Tiki Barber or whatever. Um, so yeah,
I don't
it's
like him
just
because he's.
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's small. I don't think he's gonna. I just don't see him as a bell cow back in this offense. If you want him to be a
Well,
change of pace guy,
mhm.
uh, I think he could. I know he kind of carried the load a little bit for Texas, but I don't think he's an NFL bell cow back. And again, with this team, like how much are they going to lean on just one guy? I don't know. He's someone I looked at when he went there. I go, I know the Eagles were doing a lot of work on him. They brought him in for a top 30 visit and everything. So
Yeah,
I kind of
which that
started
was
to read up on
interesting.
him a bit. But
Yeah, I was a little surprised about
yeah,
that.
there's all these teams. You got to get some depth. But would it shock me if halfway through the season, we've got Miles Sanders is dead and Jeanty's inefficient and
Yeah,
this kid's starting to get touches? Wouldn't shock me at all.
yeah. I mentioned Miles Sanders because like whatever. Like it's just such like another dude in the backfield there, like just in the room. I,
Terrible.
like that the running back room, they just like I mean they just didn't like they addressed it, but they didn't in a way. Like it's just they didn't really anyone that changed my opinion of it much from last season. Where last season I didn't like it, and this season they just brought in a bunch of guys that make me also not like it. Um, and yeah, that kind
I
of
have
worries me.
no idea. And they do a fantastic job of drafting on the defensive side of the ball.
Totally,
They crush the defensive side of the draft year
always.
after year. They don't know how to draft offensive players. I mean, it's a layup when a
Yeah.
guy falls into your lap like CD Lamb or whatever. But
Hmm.
I mean, really, what have they done over the years outside of from CD Lamb all the way back to Zeke? Nothing.
Yeah, like you kind of luck into Dak where he wasn't even
And
supposed
then
to.
Dak was a fifth round pick. They
Yeah,
passed on him 4 times.
yeah, and asked him to be your backup, and then he just happens to be like really solid. He is so good that he gets Tony Romo out of there. But like yeah, like you said, they haven't proven to draft consistently well. Even O line, like they're questionable. I liked uh the Booker pick, but I like that pick. I mean, he was really good for Alabama, and I don't know if you
Sure.
saw all of his post draft interviews and stuff, like the one that he had with Micah Parsons, where he was saying that he likes to see the will of the defenders go away, and they go back to the coach, like trying to like they get mad at the player for making the wrong play or whatever. Like he seems like I mean, everything I've heard, like he seemed like a really good person, and then he also seems like he has that killer mindset, but I really liked him at Bama. It's just like you said, Cowboys haven't shown that they can draft very well on offense.
And you draft him a guard 12 overall,
Hmm.
which is tough because he better be good.
Yeah,
You're taking a guard in the top 12.
and he's also
You got a
replacing a Hall
glaring
of
hole
Famer. Like he's stepping in for
there.
Zach Martin. You got to be really good to replace him. Like, you can't be bad because people will
Yeah,
be mad about it, and people will
yeah.
talk about that.
And now they have 3 guys named Tyler on their offensive line.
Yep, they're building out the Tyler offense, the offensive line. I like it. Um, did you have any picks that you didn't like that much? There, like I said in the very beginning of this, there weren't like this draft just overall. There's always a couple teams, or even a lot of times more than a couple teams that I don't like their overall draft, or there were a bunch of picks that throughout the draft that I didn't like. This, year, I guess, because it's just a weaker like it wasn't top heavy. It was just so deep that it just felt like so many teams drafted for the holes they had. But I did write down a few names here. But did you have any that you didn't really like?
Well, I just think there's teams that missed on opportunities, like the Jets not drafting another receiver. I mean,
Hmm.
they went and took Mason in the round at tight end there, and okay, you needed a tight end that badly second round, but to me, I wish that would have been a wide receiver. They did get Arian Smith from Georgia in the 4th round, but we'll see what a 4th round guy can do. Um, And you look at what the San Francisco 49ers, they're telling you a lot. They need defensive help. Uh, they didn't draft a skill position player until the fourth round, Jordan Watkins out of Mississippi.
That was
I
surprising.
thought they might try to do a little more on the offensive side. Maybe get another running back. They got Jordan James in the fifth round, but any of these guys you're taking super late, I mean,
Yeah,
they're just total
it's kind
shots in the
of,
dark. But
the thing with the
they
Niners.
wanted to fortify their.
Sorry, no, go on. You can finish.
Oh, finish up. Go ahead.
The thing with the Niners and like them drafting late round players versus like any other team, especially running back wise, is like the Niners just figure out a way to like here's sixth round no name running back that you've never even heard of, and he rushes for like 900 yards. And they just like
I
pull
know.
these dudes out of nowhere year after year, where some like they're so fine with whoever. Like you can, it feels like they've besides like the Frank Gore years and stuff, like they had a new guy almost every year being their main guy. Now they have CMC obviously, so they don't really need to have that guy step up anymore. But I mean, it CMC a question mark this year with coming back from injury last year. So like yeah, like who knows? This new fifth round running back, like they might just have found another guy.
And the only other thing is Washington. I thought they were gonna um, do something in their backfield
Totally,
for Brian Robinson and
I
Austin Eckler.
hated that they didn't.
They just took a kid in the seventh round, but who cares
Yeah, yeah.
about that? I did like the Jalen Lane pick, wide receiver. I saw him play Syracuse a few times for Virginia Tech, and
hmm
he's a rangy kind of guy. I think he can make that team.
I agree. I didn't I saw the Syracuse game this past year, but I haven't seen much of him outside of that. But I have heard like a lot of the guys that the podcasters and the draft guys that I respect, a lot of people are high on him or like pre-draft and were saying that they
Yeah.
like the fit. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's very good based on from what I've heard. One guy I didn't really like, I didn't love the Trey Harris pick for the Chargers.
Hmm.
He's gotten hurt in multiple seasons now, like consecutively, so that worries me. He didn't run a complete route tree throughout college. Like he didn't. I just like middle of the second round felt a little rich for me. He's mainly a deep threat, and like, the Chargers need that, but it just I don't know. It just felt a little high for me. I feel like he was. I had him more as like a third round, even as far as like fourth maybe. Everyone's comparing him to Alex too, which I mean, who cares about comparisons? But that's not a good sign. Like it just it felt like a little too high, especially with how good this receiver class was. I felt like they definitely could have taken even a guy like it's like I feel like that would have been a better pick there.
Yeah. I mean, this is he a little redundant with Mike Williams and Mike Williams back in the Chargers and
Yeah.
Quentin Johnston,
hmm
who shined a little bit last year. Probably a bust, former first round pick,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they get a little something out of our guy Orlando Gadsden at tight end. So
Yeah,
we'll see what happens.
I didn't write Gadsden down, but I loved that pick. I mean, I'm probably biased because as a Syracuse fan, but this tight
Sure.
end room is just bad. You got Will Disley, um, I don't even.
Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, you got Tyler Conklin there. Like that that's super beatable. Both of those guys, and so like that's in he's like might be more of a receiver than tight end in the NFL because he's a little too skinny. I feel like his size is not full on tight end size in the NFL, but he could totally get a little bigger. But like
You know what he's gonna do? He's gonna play big slot for him. That's what he's gonna
yeah,
do.
I wouldn't be surprised at all about that. He's to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he is this tight end one, even day one, or if not day one, month or two of the season because they didn't even really use their
We
tight
know.
ends much last year. Sorry, not to interrupt. They didn't
Yeah,
use their tight ends much last, and like throughout the last few years they haven't much. Like I feel like the last time they did was like Jared Cook maybe, but the Gadsden he's better than the other two options and to get 100 yards, 200 yards, whatever, but I could see Gadsden really being like a 400 to 600 yard dude this season. If
I
he,
can see it.
yeah.
And then very much like a Marcus Colston, where he's playing wide receiver with a tight end designation for fantasy.
Marquez Colston, that's a good name. He's a legend.
Us old guys, pull them out of our head.
I like those Saints teams. Like those were teams. I mean, they weren't actually that good, but they were. I liked them at least. I mean, that was like my childhood getting into the NFL. Um, you
That's cool.
you said that you liked the Judkins pick. I have it as one of my lesser liked picks. Just not like it. I
Hmm.
mentioned it before, but like not even necessarily the player. It's just I felt like he was too high of them. It was a position that was not the most glaring need, and he's not the fast player. I feel like Travion Henderson was the better player, and
Hmm.
I don't know. It was a need, but not the biggest need. Second round was just too rich, but it's kind of a little nitpicky. It's just honestly the Browns draft overall. We got into it earlier, but it just wasn't very good. I feel like you could point out a lot of those picks. I have Dylan Gabriel here as well. Like out of all of the drafts, I felt like maybe the worst grade I could give was like a C minus. But the Browns, they I don't know where I'd D like something like that. Like it's just Mason Graham's a solid pick, but outside of that, I there were picks of theirs that I liked.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to do one of these quarterbacks hit.
Hmm.
Um, and then you got a tight end, like we mentioned before. Tight end you didn't need.
Yeah.
Judkins, I'm fine with a running back. You want to take a running back in the second round? You needed one. Right now you're leaning on Jerome Ford. You're going to get that kind of local rah-rah. People be excited to buy an Ohio State kid's jersey. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. And that's a team it's an interesting roster with Judy and Cedric Tillman. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like the
I don't know.
receiver more
They're
more
gonna
than
have
a
they're gonna
they
have trouble scoring.
yeah, they could have used a receiver more than a running back. Like Judy is not a receiver one at all. And
No,
Cedric Tillman, whatever. Is Elijah Moore still on the team? I don't even know. Like, it's
no, he was in Buffalo today on a visit.
oh, that's exciting, I guess.
He's a free agent. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's just I feel like running back wasn't out there. Like Jerome Ford is fine enough that they could have taken somebody later on. I mean, they ended up taking a Dylan Sampson. Like, I feel like taking that round four, round five running back was fine enough. We can fill that hole for a year or two, and like receiver was just so glaring to me, and them not doing that at the top of the second, like that was the perfect chance to do that. I don't know. I mean, Travis Hunter would have been that receiver, but
I know.
whatever. Jeez, this isn't much fantasy, but I did. I mean, I loved the
Mhm.
Eagles draft. I think you guys just killed it. I loved Makuba. Jahad Campbell was my favorite player in the draft. Um, like I was so mad when he went to the Eagles. That was just I wanted him to go to the Niners so bad. Like I had him mocked there in every mock I did because like their long history of good like or not but like elite linebackers. The last 15 years it feels like every 4 years or whatever they have just another dude that is just fantastic. And I felt like Jahad Campbell totally fits that role. Um, and the injury concerns, I totally get why he fell, but I think when he stays healthy, which just because you got hurt in college doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get hurt in the NFL. And it's good. Like I think just it's so annoying he goes to the Eagles because just another piece for them of that amazing defense that they just like it just shores them up another 4 years. Sucks.
Yeah, I mean it's good. They did what they needed to do. Is they needed help at linebacker slash edge. They needed a safety. They needed some help on the defensive line or the D tackle, which they still need probably another guy. They got some corner depth. They didn't need much at the skill position. I'd like if they would find another wide receiver somewhere.
Yeah,
But
the receiver
and
three
then we'll
was
see what.
yeah the receiver three for you guys was a little shaky last year. You got you
We'll
traded.
see what happens. They
Mhm. You
they want
traded.
Jahan
Yeah,
Dotson.
yeah,
We'll
and
see what happens with
you just
Goddard. The room you want to get rid of him.
yeah. What's your opinion on that? Do you like agree with that decision?
It's a cash issue. They don't want to pay him the cash
Hmm.
the last 2 years of his contract, so they want to move off of it if they can. The way they talk, it's like it's past tense. Like he's off the roster.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. They have a million picks next year if they flip one to the Raiders because
Hmm.
they've got the the kid that they're trying to get rid of, whose name eludes me now. But yeah, it
Michael
wouldn't
Mayer.
shock me if
Yeah, Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah,
Thank you. If
yeah,
they and they went and they picked up a couple of guys right now in free agency. So they've got Grant Calcaterra at tight end, and then they signed in free agency um, Kyle Granson and Harrison Bryant. Harrison Bryant, I believe, won the Mackey Award a million years ago. So,
Okay.
but those are guys who you're not really that worried about the pass
Yeah,
game.
yeah. What was your? I mean, as a Syracuse fan and an Eagles fan, I'm assuming you liked the Kyle McCord pick.
It's fine. He can come in and compete for that third quarterback spot currently occupied by Dorian Thompson-Robinson. You'll see what the Eagles like to do is not pay a lot of money for these backup quarterbacks. So now you get Kyle McCord for a couple of years. Tanner McKee, their current backup, they've developed over a few years, and then we saw him last season come in and win a game for them.
Hmm.
And then McCord can absolutely do that and then ascend to, and then once Tanner McKee's contract runs out, then McCord becomes the second quarterback in line. So
Yeah.
it's fine. They just
Which,
keep developing talent, and he's got a good arm, he's a smart kid, and
yeah,
that's a good career backup to have on your roster.
that's the correct way to go about backup quarterbacks too. Is doing like when you have that elite number one quarterback that like is not getting touched. The Mahomes is the Hurts, the Allens, the Lamars, so on and so forth. Like having that guy to like drafting a backup fifth round, sixth round, seventh round, whatever, and like having him on the team for 3 4 years. That's just filtering in backups over and over again is 100% the way to do it. It keeps your money low. You can train these
Mhm.
guys to be in like to run your offense the way that you run it. I thought it was a pretty good pick. I mean, I'm not a Kyle McCord fan, but I think he's pretty solid. I had a class with him last year, so it's pretty cool. He's a pretty good dude.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Very cool.
yeah. Uh, there was one last thing. I wanted to talk about Ashton Jeanty just like for a little bit. My main
Uh-huh.
question was just how high are you drafting him? In obviously dynasty, he's the 101, but in a redraft league,
Yeah.
like the running backs, it's Saquon, I probably should have had a mock draft. I tried to look for them
It's
online. There wasn't too many, but
it's tough right now because
yeah,
there's
like
not good data. But
mhm.
Gibbs is ahead of him. Derrick Henry will be up ahead of him. So I think by when it's all said and done, Ashton Dent's going to be an end of the first round pick for fantasy. So the
I think
problem is he's on a
yeah.
terrible team with a terrible offensive line. How many touchdowns is he really going to score?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think the offensive line is like that horrible. It's definitely not like one of the better units.
Oh,
The offensive line's not like the worst in the league. It's not the best. I think it's gonna be like 20th, let's say, which is definitely not great, but like is fine enough. Um, I like Gino enough as a quarterback to like be able to get touchdowns at the bare minimum. He's not gonna win them the division or lead them to a 10
here's
win season.
their problem. They play in a division where they've got to beat the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Chargers, and they've got to score some points. And
Hmm.
they just, with that receiving core of Bowers and Jacoby and now this Besh kid, like, do they
Yeah,
really have the firepower to win in these divisions? I don't know if they do.
I like Besh. I think he's pretty solid, and he fits like the Raiders mantra of like being like I'll hit my helmet into yours type of guy. Um, but like you said, I think the receiving core definitely is not awesome. But I think that their offense is not going to be that bad. They're going to be one of the worser teams in the league because the defense is super not good. But like this offense is not going to be scoring 10 points a game. I could they're going to be probably league average. I would assume, which is good enough for Jeanty to have a pretty spectacular season. He might not be like the fifth overall, sixth overall pick good. Like I'm taking the Taylors and the Saquons over him, but like Derrick Henry, I think there's a real argument for him being taken over Henry.
I think he's going to get a ton of touches.
Yeah, and yeah, he's the clear RB1 there. I mean, obviously they take him top of the first round, but like there's nobody touching
Yeah,
touching
if
him
you
on that team.
want to swing for some upside and say, hey, this kid's going to get 300 plus touches this year. So I'm for it. Draft him in the middle end of the first round and have some fun. That's what fantasy's all about.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. All right, so was there anything else, anybody else from this draft that you wanted to hit on? Any your top sleepers or anything else you missed?
Well, like I said, I loved
Yep.
love Kyle Williams. I think he's going to be phenomenal. I want to make sure people are going and getting their hands on Caleb Johnson. I think he's going to be an every down fantasy player. And you know, we talked about our love of the running backs in this class. Like, don't be afraid to invest in the running back early and often in fantasy football. It is the lifeblood of fantasy. So,
Hmm.
you know, don't be afraid later in your draft. You want to draft Cam Scatterboo? Who knows? He could be a league winner. All of a sudden, our guy Tracy goes down, and you're sitting on a gold mine.
All right, so I feel like we basically hit on most of the guys that we liked, didn't like, the best fits and all of that. So I guess we can just end it off here. Where can the viewers find you? You want to shout out your pages, your
Sure.
show, anything?
Yeah, if you're still one of the 5 people left on Twitter, I'm at Drake Fantasy. Same over on Blue Sky. If you want to go see me over there, and listen to the Fantasy Points podcast with myself and John Hansen. You can find that on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And just read any articles I put out over at fantasypoints.com, man. But thanks for having me. I appreciate this.
Thanks for
Getting
coming on.
your podcast started. This is awesome, man. I feel very blessed that you thought highly enough of me to get me on the show.
Oh, totally. I've known about you for years. My dad and I, driving around doing stuff in the summer or whatever, like I would always listen to your shows. So yeah, it's super cool for you to come on. Thank you for joining.
Anytime, brother.
All righty. Thank you for coming on. That's all. See you around.